before I joined SoftServe, the question became, what does SoftServe do? I was trying to answer this question, and it seemed like SoftServe did a lot of things, some very good things, but it wasn't a simple question to answer. I didn't find anything that would tell me exactly what SoftServe does in a small, concise way. And so once I joined SoftServe, I started asking around, started talking to people, and asking, what do we sell? And so I got a lot of answers about this. And it seemed that, we sell a lot of things and we do a lot of things. Told anything from 50 to 100 to 150 services that we sell. So this was a lot. And so if I would put my mind in the mind of the seller, and if I was a seller or a salesperson, I would say, well, what should I sell? And how do I go about selling these things? There's so many of them. How do I actually figure out what I need to be selling? And then if I was to sell something, let's just say I I was able to sell a discovery workshop to a client. My next question would be, what should I sell next? After discovery, what comes next? It might be an easy question to answer. I don't know if everybody would have the same answer, however. So, at SoftServe, and some of you may have seen this, but it's definitely in our boilerplate, but coming from marketing, we position ourselves as advisors and providers. So advisors, we tell people, these are the solutions that would best fit your customer need. We understand, we find out what they need, and then we provide it to them. So that's the second part of this, is the provider. So we actually deliver what we advise, right? So this is something that we're moving more towards as we become a larger and larger company. And you might have seen this as well. So that is who we are. What we do is we get innovation done. So we figure out places to innovate within our customer base, and then we're able to provide a solution, and then we actually make it happen. So this is the provider section. So these are just some marketing terms that we throw around. I wanted to put them in here because it really speaks to who SoftServe is going to be, today and in the future. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but the enterprise digital journey, this was on the home page for a while. This is in a lot of marketing material, but basically our head of marketing spent some money to fund a study to figure out what stage of a customer journey do we have the most opportunity. As well as we pose it to clients. What stage of the customer journey are you in? So here are the stages. So reveal is basically the what. If they don't know what to do, let's say, they say, I have this problem. I have no idea how to solve it. Let's just say, something around lines of like, I have a lot of data. Excuse me. I have a lot of data and I know I need something to make it work better for me, but they have no idea what that might be. They're considered in the reveal stage. What? If they have some idea, they say, hey, you know what? I know this thing about data governance is something that I need to do, but I don't know how to go about doing it. They're in the transform stage. And the accelerate stage, and this is where we have a lot of history as a company. This is where they have a solution underway. They're implementing that data governance strategy, but they need more expertise. This is where we kind of get dedicated teams. You might have heard a word that we don't use in marketing anymore, outsourcing, this kind of thing. This is accelerate. This is where we used to operate. And optimize, they have that solution in place. They want to make it better, right? So this is upgrades, this sort of thing. What the study showed is that our greatest opportunity is in the reveal and transform stage. This is where most people, most clients, and we had a series of questions to help, so they didn't, necessarily know these 4 stages, but we have a series of questions that we asked them to help figure out which stage they were in. Most of them were in the reveal and transform stage. So this is all very good, right? This is helpful, but the question still comes back to, how do I sell that? We're advisors and providers. We get innovation done. We know what stage of the customer journey you're in. Okay, if I'm a seller, or if I'm working with a client, what do they need? Like, how do I make it simple for them? And that's what we're really talking about here, because even at SoftServe, if we have an answer, if you're thinking in your mind, you know, I know the answer to Malika's question. I know exactly what we do. I don't have a question about this. Our customers will. And sometimes it's hard to articulate that. It's hard to tell them or for them to come to us, right? So if you're looking on the website, you're trying to figure out what SoftServe did, just like I did when I first joined or before I joined, the question is not easily answered. So as a company, we need to figure out how to make it easy for our sellers and all sellers here to sell. If you're with a client, make it easy for them to, you know, to have a conversation of, okay, this project is wrapping up. What could the next project be? To start talking in similar terms. So it's an education on an internal perspective, but it's also an education for the customer. For the customer to say, oh, okay, it makes sense to me. This is what you do. This is how it applies to my business. And this is what I'm going to buy from you, right? And, oh, I've already bought this. So what is the next stage? Okay, you've made it easy for me to understand what comes next. So that's really that's where we came from. That is how, you know, when I joined, I think it was my third day, that is the mandate that, you know, we were trying to figure this out. And for those of you who've been coming for a while, it's not a new problem, right? This is something that there have been very different solutions thrown at this problem. And so there was a lot of resistance when we first were coming up with this, because a lot of people needed to understand more. How is this going to be successful? And we talked to leadership, we talked to a lot of people, and we believe that this will make it easy. I will say this is before I go into it, it is 1.0, right? This is evolving, growing, changing. We have the first phase of it out right now, and it will continue to evolve. So if you don't see something in here that it doesn't speak to, likelihood is it's coming up. It is something that we are addressing as we move into 2019. But we needed to find a place to start. We needed to start somewhere to answer this question. So and you guys, if you've seen this before, or if you've seen our, you know, centers of excellence, practice areas, we needed to come up with a term that really speaks to our areas of technology, that speaks to the customer. We're calling these service families. So I worked with leadership, Alex Jubai, various people to come up with what are our service families. And this is where our expertise lie. Because one thing when I joined is I mentioned 150 services or something like that. And I looked at what those 150 services were. And they weren't all on the same level. You know, some of them were down to the assessment level, and then some of them were just, you know, IoT. Those things are very different. IoT is an area that, you know, is a higher level, and an assessment would be something that's already very tactical that you would send to a client. So there needed to be some sort of structure and progression of how we look at these things. So the highest level, this is what our customers need. This is a kind of our customer areas of expertise, right, where we have technology expertise. So, but they align very closely to the COE, so there wasn't much work to be done here. It was just sort of defining them. And again, as I mentioned, this might be growing and evolving and changing. This is where we started. So let's just say if I want to pick one of these, and I mentioned a hierarchy. So now we're going to look at the hierarchical structure of what one of these service families look like. Because the next question is, okay, great, service family, AI, ML, what comes next? So what comes next is really asking the client, and I ask the service family owners and various people, okay, what do we have capabilities in AI and ML? And what does the customer need? What is the business need that these customers are looking for? And I said, because we need to start somewhere, you get to pick three. You have to have three services that you feel in the next couple of years that we will be focused around in AI and ML. And more services are to come, but let's start with three. And so they told me advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, and intelligent mobility. These are the three that they chose within AI and ML. Now, you'll notice here, and I mentioned before, that there are other services that have not been defined because we have a lot of work to do, right? So these are the three that we're going to start off with to show this progression and to show the kind of quality of material we can have. And as we go forward, this service list will grow. And there are people on my team at present that are aligned to these to help that happen. So from marketing perspective, we are investing in helping the service family owners and the delivery owners actually build out these services, so there will be more. But let's just start with these three. Let's look at advanced analytics. So again, this is a progression and a hierarchy. Within advanced analytics, the next question would be, all right, what stage of the customer journey? This is where it becomes pertinent. It's not so important for our customers to say, hey, I'm a reveal person. It might be more helpful for our sellers or for you and whomever else is client facing to say, what stage of the customer journey are there? This is where it comes into play. So you have advanced analytics. It's something, if you take advanced analytics, what stage of the customer journey in respective to advanced analytics is my client, right? So rather than just broad term of they're in this, it could be relevant to cloud migration. They could be very, very advanced. They could have a solution in place and they just need help for the upgrade. Advanced analytics, they could be in one of the earlier stages. So for this, when I asked the service family owners, I said, pick one. You can address all three. So please keep in mind when I'm choosing these, you can choose any one of these and sell any of these to your clients. However, I said, where's the greatest area of opportunity? And they said for advanced analytics specifically, they're in the transform stage. So that's the journey stage. So this is where we get to things that we're actually selling. So in the transform stage, the offers that particular to transform, because this is the how, if you remember. So it is, they know that they want to use advanced analytics, but they don't know how to do it. So the offers that are most particular to that journey stage are software, proof of concept, software development, and user training. And this, you'll see the arrows, which means you start them at discovery, move to proof of concept, prototyping, software development, and user training. If you think about the journey stage as a lens, so it is a filter that you're using to look at what you should sell your client. You can sell them anything, but because they're in this stage, what makes the most sense? That's what we're talking about. So you would start off with discovery, and these are probably very familiar to you of things that we talk about with the client. But there is one more stage. So within discovery, there are ways, we call them offer components. So if you're a seller or if you're with a client, you've heard of discovery workshop, this sort of thing. So when we're talking to our clients, you can say, a discovery workshop, that's 1 to 5 days. You find about business requirements, this kind of thing. And it has a certain definition, right? Discovery phase is a longer bulk of time that we will spend with the client, and that has a certain definition. And these two can be sold separately. You can have a discovery workshop, or you can have a discovery phase. You can have a discovery workshop and a discovery phase. Though that's what we can articulate to our clients. And assessment sits over here because sometimes our clients just say, hey, you know what? I need to know where we are right now. And, for those of you who've been with the company for a while, this is a lot of what we do. So that is basically the structure. And that is basically what I have to share, because it should make sense. And what I'll say is that I'll show you what we're creating in terms of content. That is the first round of content that we can start sharing with our clients. So again, this is 1.0, and this sheet that I'm about to show you is also the first the first wave, if you will, of what we're sharing, because this is not going to tell the client everything. It's just going to give them a high level of what we're talking about, right? I mentioned those marketing folks. They're going to be working with the service family owners to develop content. But let's look at this. This is a PDF that we're created, and these PDFs are being created. I think that we've done half of them, half of the services that I've shared, because for each one of those service families, there's 1 to 3 services, right? So we've done half of them. The next half will be done by the end of Q1. And then we'll look at more services to create. So here we have The service family, up here at the top, I mentioned service family. This is where we talk about the service family within the sheet. So it talks about AI and ML at a very high level. And then we move along to advanced analytics. This is the service sheet. This is what the focus of this PDF is about. So we talk about, you tell a little bit about the benefits of advanced analytics, what does it help do? What's the business value? So this is aimed at the business customer, right? So we talk about stakeholder value. And why choose SoftServe? What is it that we really do? Why above everybody else, right? We get to the service offers. And so I will say here is that this, if you look at the website now, and as of yesterday, or the day before, yesterday, you will see that there's a new services section on the website. Rather than solutions where it used to be, there's now services, and it gives a high level of all of these. You will notice that we don't have the offers on those pages because the offers is proprietary. We don't necessarily want it mass distributed because of competitors. So this is a sheet that our salespeople or you might use with a client. I don't suggest we go about sharing this in a very broad way, but these are our offers, and you see them from the squares that I have on the sheet: discovery, proof of concept, software development, and user training. This is because it's for the transform stage, right? I will show you an example of something that's not in the transform stage in just a moment. So if I was to click on each one of these, it would take me to a sheet that would tell me about discovery, mention discovery workshop, discovery phase, assessment reports, and this is what it will do. And we'll go here, and this is actually what you would sell to the client. Discovery workshop, a standalone without a workshop, discovery workshop plus a discovery phase, or an assessment without a workshop, right? So again, very, very high level view, and we also have the sample agenda of what a workshop might look like. Very high level view of what this is that they're buying, right? This is not everything. It doesn't mean that we won't have sales decks or anything like that. In fact, this is supposed to help with sales decks and talking to the client and different things like that. So just quickly here, because I want to show something else. So I'll take you through core services, put it back in presentation mode. So core services, here's the core services. And so this is, functional offices. When we think of that it's a little bit different. All of these have slightly smaller, different definitions that you may be used to if you've been with the company for a while, because we are really focused on what the customer is looking at. So functional office is how we define it at SoftServe, or core service is how we define. It's going to be a little bit different than how the customer is going to come to understand that, right? We need to make it simple for them again. So, for example, here we have software development, project management, business analysis, consulting, services. I know I'm speaking to you today. So this is where we have the service of, project management. These are to grow, right? This is an area I will say that I am speaking to various people in the delivery, organizations, and this will be built out quite a bit. So let's just look at software development very quickly. And also the dotted lines here means they are services. I just have not yet built out the sheets for these things. That's all it means. And so in the software development phase, and this is software development as a service, right? So some people come to us, as I mentioned in the beginning, some people come to us simply to just do software development. They say, I don't want AI ML, I don't have big data, I just have a team, I want to buy software development as a service. So it's that component. And so there'll be the Accelerate. So within Accelerate, you would have things like Smart Start, project management, POC, software development, and user training. Again, the arrows here, right? So Smart Start is where they would likely start, POC, software development, and user training. And this is also tells people, with the arrows, what you can buy next, right? So after they buy Smart, you can go into prototyping, from prototyping going to software development. Project management, of course, is can be done throughout. So there's no arrow here. They might just, purchase project management in and of itself, perhaps, but most likely with one of these things, right? But this just gives you an example of what another journey stage looks like. We also have reveal, which is if you're involved in hackathons and things like that. Ideation in the reveal stage, that's where most people would be, because they're trying to figure out what they're trying to do, and so that's what we're there to help them to do. So I'm just going to take this out of presentation mode for a moment because I'm going to skip around a little bit here. And we'll just look at this. Okay. So I just showed you the service sheets. That's what we're calling it. The service sheets is that PDF I showed you with advanced analytics, with the different sections and that sort of thing. So again, how do you use those things? And these things will be made available. We're actually making some corrections on the PDFs right now, so they will be made available, and you can use it for your own education to understand what these different services are. We already have had some sellers who have picked it up, and various people in the organization to understand, okay, I'm going to go talk to a client, or my client is talking about this. I need to know just really quickly what it is, and then, what I can talk about that SoftServe can address. You could use it with your prospects or clients. So if you have, you're working with a client and hey, they're only working with us in this aspect. What more information can I share with them? Or what should they purchase next, or what have you, to extend my length of time with the client? They can be used for that. Also, I mentioned that you can take pieces of this and put it into pitches, inside sales, elevator pitches, website, anything. They're approved for you to do that, except for the offers. As I mentioned, those are some things that we want to make sure that stays a little bit close, so you can use it with session with the clients. It's not highly proprietary because it doesn't have pricing or anything like that, but we just don't want to have it massively distributed. One thing I will ask is that this is an ongoing process. It's 1.0. It is growing, so feedback, is welcome. I will say that I know we have a large group here, so I'm not sure how we handle questions in this regard, but I would like to hear if you have specific questions, either email or some sort of feedback loop, and we are talking to leaders across the company, and that list of people that we're talking to is growing. So we are including more and more of the organization as we move along. So there will be changes to this, but this is the approach that I want to share with you today. So what's next? I mentioned the rest of the service sheets that we're creating. And then this is sales trainings. And I will say that this is actually shouldn't just be sales trainings, it's like ongoing training. So I covered a lot. It's a very big level. So each of these services have service sheets, right? So if I'm talking about cloud, or just say AI/ML, let's say with that description, AI and ML, I have the service sheet and I can give that to you, but does that really help you understand? If I was to give you 15 of these, what would you really pick up from understanding it? And also there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of updates. So my commitment is that there will be periodic trainings, and I'll work it out, with the organizers of this call, to really just kind of give you in the future updates, as well as perhaps diving in further into one of those service sheets. So we would take AI and ML, and we would look at service sheets for that, tell you a little bit about them, why they might be pertinent to you, this sort of thing. Because this is a company-wide, effort. This is definitely something that we're going to be has been adopted. There will be a lot of material coming out from this, as well a lot of language that we'll be using as a company. So it's very important that we talk to as many people as possible, so they're starting to understand when people are talking about these things what they mean, right? So there's integration into CRM. One of the exciting things about this thing is that we don't have a very good history of being able to track exactly what we're selling. So one of the reasons that we came up with this thing is like, okay, at the end of the year, I want to know how many advanced analytic discovery workshops I've sold. So there needs to be something in CRM that helps me do that, because when we look at what we're selling more of and what we're selling less of, we want to make sure that we have that information available, so we can make business decisions based upon that, right? So if we're selling a lot of cloud migration rather than just taking it anecdotally, what does that team look like? Do we need to grow that team, right? And if they're not in, for example, if we're talking about I'll just use cloud migration because I just brought it up. And let's just say we said, okay, they're in the reveal stage, but we find out later on the line, you know what, we're selling a lot, but we are selling more software development than anything. Maybe they're not in the reveal stage. Maybe they're not trying to figure out what they want to do. Maybe they're trying to figure out how they're trying to do it. So we would also say, okay, we're putting more content and information to that. Again, it gives us information so that we can make better business decisions. And so here you have like an example SKU. So in CRM, it would be cloud migration, reveal, the ideation phase, and virtual. This is just an example. Right now, today, if you were to go into CRM, what you see is you would have to choose the service family. So you have to choose one of the 12 that I mentioned, and then you would have to choose a service within that. So you would have to use cloud migration, one of the ones services. It is a slow progression, right? So we're giving you some general blocks to categorize projects, but right now, as we move forward, there will be more integration to backend systems. We're also adding case studies, website updates. I mentioned that it's gone live, but case studies for each of these things so we can see where we've worked. If you're working on a project that finishes up, it might be a great opportunity to do a case study if it fits within one of these things, that sort of stuff. As well as I mentioned, we're talking to people. We are we're committed to keeping this an ongoing discussion and getting feedback and having it grow. But this is the structure. So we'll have the structure be the same, but it can grow organically. So adding services, adding offers, these sort of things. So don't get too concerned if something up here or that I've just shown, because first of all, I only showed you just an example, but also if within looking the material, it doesn't exist, because it will. If it's good enough for us to sell at a global level, it will exist, right? And this is why we're hiring a new associate director to manage the catalog. So I've helped to create it, but of course, helping to create it with everybody's input from leadership and this sort of thing. But we need someone to actually continue to talk to people so that it is organically growing and evolving and becoming something that we can really, that's really comprehensive from all of our from SoftServe, so this is our full offering. So this person would be dedicated to that, as well as talking to the various levels of organization. So service family owners, service family owners, functional offices, delivery, these kind of things. This will be for this person to contact and help to understand and to help grow. So we're really putting a lot of effort and thought behind making sure that this is successful for SoftServe. So these are some changes that you'll see in the future, as well as this won't be the first time I'll be talking to this group. So hopefully, as we go forward, it'll give you a better understanding of the service catalog. All right, so that is what I had for today. I know it was a lot. Hopefully it made sense. And again, you'll have to excuse me because in this environment, I'm usually we rolled this out to salespeople and client partners last month. They were much smaller groups. So I know this is being recorded, but I am not sure of the best way to take feedback. So I think that might be offline, rather than just saying opening up the up for questions right now. Svetlana or someone, if you could please advise. Thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you so much.